Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another deep dive into the archives of vibrations and manifestations. I'm Jared.
And I'm Alicia.
And before we actually hit record today, we were sitting here staring at this whiteboard.
Covered in an absolute mess of scribbles for a totally different project.
Right, a totally different project.
Yeah.
And I was just venting to you about how much I genuinely hate that almost done phase of creative work.
Yeah, the purgatory of perfection.
Exactly. It's that weird state where the project is, technically functional, like the engine runs.
But it doesn't hum yet.
It does not hum. And honestly, I find it way more exhausting than the blank page.
Yeah.
Because with the blank page, you have infinite possibility, right?
Right, there's a freedom there.
But when you have a draft that is 90% there, all you really have is a list of things that are slightly wrong.
It's the friction of the messy middle. In a lot of the spiritual frameworks we look at, this is often described as a liminal space.
Mm-hmm.
It's a threshold. You've left the shore of the idea, but you haven't quite landed on the shore of reality. You're in the boat, the water is choppy, and you can't see the bottom.
And my instinct in that boat is always to just paddle harder.
Of course.
I just want to force the landing. I want to grab the thing by the neck and drag it onto the beach, just so I can officially say it's done.
Which usually bruises the work.
It totally does.
Because that gripping energy, it constricts the flow.
Yeah.
The hardest discipline in that moment isn't working harder. It's holding the space open long enough for the spirit of the thing to actually settle in. It's active waiting.
Active waiting. That is such a paradoxical phrase.
It really is.
But it actually sets the stage perfectly for what we are tackling today. Because Season 2 has been a very deliberate architectural build. We aren't just throwing random concepts at you. We're building a structure together.
Right. We started inward. We began with presence.
Which is about stabilizing the self. Because if you can't be here right now, you really can't build anything.
Exactly. And then we moved to agency, which is the ability to direct that presence, to actually make choices.
And then the last session, which I know generated a ton of messages from you all, was about ethical power. That was the whole lantern metaphor.
Holding your own light.
Right. The idea that you have to regulate your own nervous system so you aren't just blindly reacting to the world, but actually illuminating your path through it.
And the feedback on that was fascinating because a lot of people said, okay, I get it. I can hold my lantern. I can stay calm in traffic.
Yeah.
I can breathe through a stressful email at work. But then they hit the wall.
And the wall being other people.
Always.
Yeah.
The wall is the rest of the world. Because unless you are living in a literal cave in the Himalayas, your lantern isn't the only light in the room.
Or the only shadow.
Exactly. And this is the pivot point for the whole season. Up until now, the curriculum has been very singular. It's been about your alignment, your vibration.
But today, we have to deal with the messy reality of physics. What happens when two waveforms collide? What happens when you aren't the only steward of the energy in the space?
We are moving from individual integrity to shared stewardship. And I want to be really careful with that word, stewardship, because it sounds a bit soft.
It sounds like a nonprofit gala theme.
Right, like something printed on a tote bag.
Yeah.
But we are talking about it as a mechanism of actual power.
Because individual power is relatively simple. It's a closed loop. I regulate me, you regulate you. But collective power,
That is exponential.
it's complex, it's volatile, and we are living in a time where that volatility is amplified by technology to a degree our biology has literally never seen before.
We are exponential beings living in an exponential network now. One person's anxiety can trigger 1,000 people's panic in seconds.
Milliseconds, really.
So the question changes. It's no longer just, how do I stay aligned? It is, how do we stay aligned together without losing ourselves in the noise?
How do we walk with lanterns without setting the forest on fire, essentially?
Ideally, yes.
So to understand this, and I do want to get into the hard science of why this is so difficult later, but first, I want to look at a moment where we actually got this right.
I love that we are starting here.
Because it's so easy to be cynical about collective action right now. We see the failures of it every single day on our feeds. But history gives us these incredible blueprints of what high-level shared stewardship actually looks like.
We need proof of concept.
We do. So I want to take you back to 1954. And I want to strip away the sort of sepia-toned nostalgia we usually have for the 50s. I want to look at the atmosphere of that specific spring.
It was a season of low-grade terror.
Exactly. Imagine a world with no internet, no 24-hour news cycle to constantly feed you anxiety. And yet the anxiety was completely palpable. It was in the silence of the swimming pools.
Summer was the scary season.
Yeah, you'd walk past a municipal pool in July, and the gate would be padlocked. The water was just drained.
Movie theaters closed down, bowling alleys were empty.
And the playgrounds. Just these empty swings moving in the wind. And the reason was polio. It was this invisible predator. It didn't strike everyone, but when it struck, it was absolutely devastating. And it mostly targeted children.
I was reading about the hospital wards from that era. We have these very sterilized images in our heads of medicine, but the reality was visceral. The iron lungs,
Yeah.
these weren't sleek, modern medical devices. They were massive industrial metal cylinders. They looked like something out of a submarine.
And the sounds of them.
The sound was inescapable. It was this rhythmic, mechanical whoosh, hiss, whoosh. Entire wards filled with rows of children encased in these machines, just their heads sticking out, while a bellows pumped air into their lungs because their bodies had literally forgotten how to breathe.
That is the stakes.
That
That is the field of 1954.
Yeah.
High fear, high stakes, and a desperate, desperate need for a solution. Now, we often tell the story of the polio vaccine as the story of Jonas Salk.
The lone genius myth.
Right. The guy in the white coat who holds up a vial and single-handedly saves the world?
Which is not what happened.
Not at all. Salk developed the formula, yes. But the cure, the actual eradication, that was a logistical miracle of shared stewardship. We're talking about the field trials of 1954.
This is where the numbers just blow my mind.
It's staggering. To test this vaccine, they needed a sample size that was statistically undeniable. They couldn't just test it on 50 kids. They needed millions.
Millions, without computers.
Without email, without cell phones, using just clipboards, pencils, and landline telephones, they organized the mobilization of 1.8 million children.
Just pause on that for a second. 1.8 million.
They called them the polio pioneers. And it wasn't just the kids, it was the infrastructure behind them. You had 325,000 doctors and nurses.
Wow.
You had 64,000 school officials. You had 20,000 principals opening up their gymnasiums and cafeterias. And you had 150,000 volunteers, mostly mothers, who just showed up to direct traffic, hold hands, and manage mountains of paperwork.
And think about the profound level of trust required there. This wasn't a proven cure yet. This was a trial.
A massive experiment.
Parents were signing a permission slip that effectively said, I am letting you inject my child with a version of the very thing we fear most, in the hopes that it saves the collective.
That is the ultimate definition of stewardship right there. It's moving beyond what is safest for me right this second to what is necessary for us to survive.
And Salk deeply understood this. There is that famous interview he did, I think it was with Edward R. Murrow.
Yes, exactly. The vaccine is announced. It works. The church bells are literally ringing across the country. And Murrow asks him, who owns the patent on this vaccine?
Which in today's economy is a multi-billion-dollar question.
Right. And Salk doesn't even hesitate. He looks at the camera, totally deadpan, and says, well, the people, I would say. There is no patent. Could you patent the sun?
Could you patent the sun?
It is such a profound rejection of the ego-driven model of power.
It is. But I want to deconstruct why he said that. It wasn't just him being a saint or a martyr. It was him being a systems thinker.
Tell me more about that.
He understood that if he patented it, if he put a toll booth on the road to immunity, the distribution would instantly slow down. The stewardship would fracture.
Ah, because he knew the breakthrough wasn't just the chemical in the vial. The breakthrough was the distribution network.
Exactly.
The breakthrough was the trust. If you introduce profit motives and ego battles into a system that relies on 150,000 unpaid volunteers, the system collapses.
The sun only works if everyone can stand in it. The moment you try to bottle it or own it, you dim it.
So the historical lesson here is that breakthroughs scale when power is shared. The polio eradication didn't happen because one man was powerful. It happened because millions of people agreed to be stewards of a solution. They all held the lantern together.
And I do have to play the skeptic of my own philosophy here. That was 1954. We had a common, visible enemy. It's much, much harder to do that when the threat is nuanced or when the enemy feels like your neighbor.
Or when the enemy is invisible, like despair or addiction. And I know you have a personal story about this that really anchors it, because the polio story is the macro example. It's the global win. But you live through something local that touches on the exact same dynamics, just with a much messier outcome.
Yeah. This is a harder story to tell. It's not a victory march. It's about a tragedy in my hometown a few years ago.
Take us through it. Let's look at the micro.
It started with a change in the frequency of the local high school. You know how schools have a hum? It's the slam of lockers, the shouting, the chaotic energy of 1,000 teenagers.
The buzz of life.
Right. One morning, the buzz just stopped. You could feel the silence from the parking lot. A student had died. A girl. And the news rippled out quickly that it was an overdose. Heroin.
Which is a word that carries an immense amount of baggage.
It does, and instantly, the collective mind tries to categorize it. We have these narratives to protect ourselves, right? We think, oh, well, maybe she was from a troubled home, maybe she was in a bad crowd. That's tragic, but it happens over there.
We buffer ourselves with stereotypes. That doesn't happen to people like us.
Exactly. But this girl, she shattered that buffer completely. Her parents owned a beloved restaurant in town. They were pillars of the community. She was on the honor roll.
Wow.
She drove a nice car. She went on nice vacations. She had every single safety net that money and stability and love could buy. And she still fell through.
That is terrifying for a community. Because if the safety nets don't work, then absolutely no one is safe.
It broke the illusion. And in the wake of that, the grief turned into this frantic need for action. We have to do something.
Yes.
So a coalition formed. It was film teachers, students from 3 different high schools, local artists, parents.
A real cross-section of the town.
Yeah. And the goal was to create a public service announcement, a music video that would speak to the kids in a language they actually understood, not a lecture from a podium. Art.
A noble mission.
A beautiful mission. But then we actually got in the room together.
And I'm guessing the harmonious kumbaya vibes did not last very long.
About 15 minutes. See, you had a room full of creatives. You had the Grit faction, who wanted to film it in black and white, handheld, very raw and documentary style.
Sure.
Then you had the Hope faction, who wanted it to be cinematic and symbolic and uplifting. You had arguments about which school's logo should go first on the credits. You had lighting directors arguing with editors.
The how started eating the why.
Completely.
Oh.
And it got toxic fast. There was eye-rolling. There were whispered side conversations. It felt like a massive power struggle. I'm the professional here, listen to me. No, I'm the teacher here, listen to me.
Egos colliding.
I remember sitting there thinking, this is going to fail. We are going to walk away from this because we cannot agree on a camera lens.
That is the shadow side of collaboration. We really romanticize working together, but working together is actually just a collision of egos until proven otherwise.
And then the shift happened. It wasn't a big dramatic speech. It was just exhaustion. We were deadlocked on some scene, and someone in the back of the room just quietly mentioned the girl's name. They said, what would she think of this shot?
And the room changed.
It was like the air pressure dropped, the temperature reset. In that split second, everyone remembered. We aren't here for a portfolio piece. We aren't here for a directing credit. We are here because a family is planning a funeral.
Yeah.
We are here because we want to stop one other kid from making that curiosity call.
The ego dissolved into the mission.
It did. And here's the crucial distinction. We didn't suddenly agree on everything.
That's interesting.
The Grit people still hated the Hope people's lighting choices. The friction was still in the room, but the coherence changed.
Let's break that down. Explain that difference to us. Agreement versus coherence.
Agreement is intellectual. It's, I think what you think. It requires sameness. Coherence is energetic. It's, we are moving in the same direction despite our differences. We achieved coherence. We stopped fighting each other and started fighting for the integrity of the message.
You aligned your vectors. Even if the styles were different, the arrow is pointing at the exact same target.
Exactly. And the result, when we finally screened the rough cut in a dark classroom, the projector hummed to life and the video played, it was haunting. It showed the slow, quiet slide from boredom to curiosity to tragedy, and when it ended on her photo, the room was dead silent.
No arguments about the lens flare.
None, just tears. Because the stewardship had taken over, we weren't filmmakers anymore, we were lantern bearers.
Coherence is stronger than agreement. I want to emphasize that because I think that is the core thesis for this entire deep dive.
It absolutely is.
But I'm going to play the skeptic here for a minute. Because coherence sounds lovely. But isn't that just a fancy spiritual word for compliance? Isn't it just people shutting up and doing what the dominant voice in the room wants? How do you distinguish between a coherent group and, say, a cult?
That is a vital question. Compliance is imposed from the outside. It's fear-based. I will align with you because if I don't, I will be punished or exiled or fired.
Right.
Coherence is generated from the inside. It's purpose-based. I will align with this vector because the mission matters more than my personal preference.
So in the editing room, the lighting guy didn't say, fine, do it your way, I don't care. He said, I see that your way serves the story better, so I will voluntarily lay down my sword.
Exactly. It is voluntary regulation, and that brings us to the science. Because you and I can talk about energy and vibes all day, but there is a hard biological reality to why groups fall apart and how they can stay together.
Let's get into the systems. Because we are not just floating spirits, we are meat suits with nervous systems. And those nervous systems are wired in a very specific evolutionary way.
We need to talk about emotional contagion.
Right. Hadfield, Cacioppo, and Rapson. This is foundational research from the 90s. And I think people hear emotional contagion and they think it's a metaphor. Like, oh, laughter is contagious.
But it's not a metaphor. It is a biological mechanism.
It is a primitive loop. Cacioppo's work showed that we are open-loop systems. Most of our body is a closed loop. My circulatory system doesn't care what your blood pressure is doing.
Right.
But my limbic system, my emotional regulation center, it is an open loop. It is literally designed to be hijacked by the people around me.
It's survival. If we're on the savannah and you see a lion, your face scrunches in fear. If I have to wait for my conscious brain to analyze your face, deduce that you were scared, look around for the lion, and then decide to run, I'm dead.
Your lunch.
Exactly. So nature wired a shortcut. I see your microexpression, which happens in milliseconds, and my amygdala fires before I even know why. I catch your fear instantly.
Which is incredibly efficient for lions. It is terrible for group chats.
Or a board meeting. Or a family dinner. Because in the modern world, the threats aren't lions, they are opinions. They are tones of voice, they are emails.
And this is where the exponential nature of our world makes this so dangerous. We have built technology, social media, 24-hour news that acts as a massive amplifier for this exact contagion.
We have to talk about Cass Sunstein's work on group polarization.
This is the study that basically explained the internet. Break it down for us.
So Sunstein and his colleagues did these experiments. They took a group of people who were moderately concerned about an issue, say climate change, not radicals, just concerned citizens. They put them in a room together to discuss it for an hour.
Just talk. No new evidence introduced.
Just talk. And when they came out of that room, they weren't just concerned anymore. They were terrified. They were radicalized. The group dynamic pushed the average opinion toward the extreme.
The moderate voices get silenced or swept up, and the most emotional extreme voices set the new baseline.
Exactly. The group acts as an echo chamber that amplifies the signal until it distorts. So combine these two things. 1, we are biologically wired to catch each other's panic instantly. 2, we are socially structured to amplify that panic into extremism.
That is a recipe for complete dysregulation. It explains why a mob loses its mind, but an individual can stay sane. Collective nervous systems dysregulate much faster than individual ones.
And here is the hope. Here is the entire point of what we are building toward. The reverse is also true.
This is the stabilizing fact.
Regulated individuals stabilize groups. This goes back to polyvagal theory and the work of Deb Dana. Just as I can catch your panic, you can catch my calm, but it requires one of us to be the anchor.
If we are in a room and everyone is spinning out, and I consciously slow my breathing, if I drop my shoulders, if I speak from my chest instead of my throat, I am broadcasting a new signal into the network.
You are hacking the open loop. You are offering a new reference point for everyone else's mirror neurons. It's not about overpowering them with logic. You cannot logic someone out of a panic attack, but you can regulate them out of it by being a tuning fork for safety.
So in an exponential world, steadiness scales just as fast as chaos, maybe even faster, because people are secretly starving for it.
Yeah.
When people feel a truly regulated presence, they flock to it like moths to a light.
That is stewardship. It is not controlling the group. It is anchoring the group.
Okay, so we have the theory. We know the history with Salk. We know the biology with the open loops. Now we need the actual practice. Because it's one thing to sit here and say, be an anchor. It's another thing to actually do it when your uncle is ranting at Thanksgiving dinner.
Or when the Slack channel is blowing up with a crisis.
Exactly. So let's give you a tool. We call this the lantern walk. And I want to get very specific here. This isn't just take a deep breath. This is a filtering protocol.
Right. I want everyone listening to try this. Pick one collective space in your life where there is friction right now. Just one. Don't try to fix your marriage, your job, and your neighborhood all at once. Pick the weekly marketing meeting or the family group text.
Got it. I'm actually thinking of a specific email thread right now.
Okay. Now, imagine you are about to type a response or open your mouth to speak. The pressure is building. The contagion is hitting you. Before you release that energy into the room, you run it through 3 gates. 3 questions.
Gate 1. Does this increase clarity?
Check your body when you ask this. Is your comment designed to untangle the knot or pull it tighter? Saying, "You always do this," is not clarifying, that's an attack. Saying, "I am confused about the timeline," is clarifying.
Clarity is cool. Attack is hot. If you are adding heat, you aren't stewarding.
Gate 2. Does this strengthen trust?
And let's be real, trust doesn't mean I like you. Trust means safety. Does this comment make it safe for the other person to stay in the conversation?
That's the key. If I drop a sarcasm bomb, I might feel vindicated. I might get a laugh from someone else. But I have destroyed the safety in the room. Everyone else braces for impact. Stewardship means building a container strong enough to hold the disagreement.
Gate 3. Does this move us forward together?
Not, does this move me forward? Not, does this prove I'm right? Does it move the whole forward? Sometimes moving forward means compromising. Sometimes it means saying, we need to take a break.
Sometimes it means literally losing the argument to save the relationship.
Often, if you can pause for 3 seconds, literally 3 seconds, and ask clarity, trust, forward motion, you will change the entire trajectory of that interaction.
Yeah.
You stop being a mirror for the chaos and you start being a lantern for the path.
There's also a somatic piece to this, right? The tone velocity.
Yes. This is a simple rule of physics and communication. When conflict rises, velocity increases.
We talk faster, we type faster, we interrupt. The frequency gets higher and tighter.
The steward does the opposite. When the room speeds up, you slow down.
You create drag.
You literally create drag. You lower your pitch. You lengthen your pauses. If it's text, you wait 10 minutes before hitting send. You refuse to match the velocity of the dysregulation.
It is wildly effective. I've tried this in arguments. If I just drop my voice an octave and speak 20% slower, the other person almost has to slow down just to hear me. It breaks the contagion loop.
It forces a reset. But there is a trap here. There is a mental block that stops people from doing this.
Why should I be the one to do it?
Exactly. They are the problem. They are the ones yelling, why do I have to be the bigger person?
It feels unfair. It feels like you're doing the emotional labor for someone who is acting like a toddler.
It does. So we need to debug that. This is manifestation debug mode.
Let's clear the static.
The static is the belief they are the problem. As long as you believe that, you are trapped in the role of adversary, you're in a power struggle, and you cannot steward a room you are at war with.
When you blame, you contract physically. Your jaw tightens. Your vision narrows. You lose access to your higher cognitive functions. You actually make yourself stupider in that moment.
So the reframe is this. You are part of the field.
Oof. That's the hard pill to swallow.
It is. But it's the liberating one. Instead of asking, why are they so annoying, you ask, what am I contributing to this field right now? Am I feeding the fire or am I feeding the water?
This moves you from victim to co-steward. You aren't there to fix them. You are there to stabilize the space between you.
And the paradox is, when you stop fighting the field, your nervous system softens. You get your brain back. And a regulated brain is always more influential than a dysregulated one.
Always. The person with the most range controls the system. If you can stay calm while they spin out, you are driving the bus, whether they know it or not.
We have thrown a lot at you today. History, science, practice. I want to give you a way to integrate this.
We call this the coherence audit. This is for when you have a quiet moment with your journal.
Prompt 1. Where am I participating in collective spaces right now? Just list them out. Work, home, online, a community board.
Prompt 2. In that space, do I contribute coherence or chaos? And be honest. Radical honesty here. Do people relax when you enter the chat, or do they brace?
Prompt 3. What does responsible influence look like for me there? Maybe it means speaking up more. Maybe, for some of us, it means speaking less.
And prompt 4. The ego killer. How do I hold my lantern without trying to outshine others? Is there relief in realizing you don't have to be the sun, you don't have to fix everyone?
That image, you don't have to be the sun. I think we need to land that in the body.
I agree. We've been very analytical today. Let's move into the sensory space.
Okay, so if you can, uncross your legs, put your feet flat on the floor. If you're driving, obviously keep your eyes open, but soften your gaze. Take a deep breath in through the nose. Fill the belly. And exhale slowly through the mouth.
Let your shoulders drop.
Imagine you are standing on a path at twilight. The sun has gone down, but it's not pitch black. It's that deep indigo blue. The air is cool. The ground beneath you is solid. In your right hand, you are holding a lantern. Feel the weight of it. It's an old lantern. Iron and glass. The light inside is warm. It's steady. It is yours.
Just yours.
Look down. That light illuminates a circle around your feet. You can see the stones, you can see the grass, you cannot see the horizon, you don't need to. You have enough light for the next step.
Now listen.
You hear footsteps on the gravel, you look up, and you see other lights appearing in the dusk. One to your left, two to your right, a whole line of them ahead of you. Notice your body. Do you feel threatened? Do you feel like you need to hide your light? Or do you feel the relief?
Watch the circles of light overlap.
Where your light meets your neighbor's light, the path gets brighter. You can see things you couldn't see alone. The shared field reveals the way. Imagine someone near you stumbles. Their light flickers wildly. You don't judge them, you don't yell at them, you just stop. You hold your lantern steady. You lend them your stability until they find their footing. You regulate the field with your presence.
And now, imagine your light flickers.
You are tired. You stumble. And instantly, the lights around you hold the space. You are not alone in the dark. You are part of a constellation. Many lanterns. One direction. Take a breath into that feeling. The feeling of shared power. And when you are ready, come back to the room.
Many lanterns. One direction. That is the feeling. It's the absolute antidote to the loneliness of a lone wolf mindset.
We are so conditioned to think we have to do it all ourselves, but the heavy lifting is meant to be shared.
So let's bring it home. We started this deep dive asking, what happens when we aren't the only one holding a lantern?
We learned from the polio pioneers that big breakthroughs require distributed trust. We learned from the music video project that coherence is stronger than agreement. You don't have to think alike to move together.
We looked at the science of emotional contagion, that we are open loops, and that regulated individuals are the anchors in the storm.
And we gave you the lantern walk, the 3 gates: clarity, trust, moving forward, and the practice of slowing the tone to create drag against chaos.
The final takeaway is this. Shared power does not dilute your influence. It stabilizes it. You are not smaller because you are part of a whole. You are supported.
So here is your mission for the week, the action step.
Choose that one collective space, the one that agitates you, and decide just for this week to be the steward.
When the temperature rises, you lower yours. When the speed increases, you slow down. Run the filters. See what happens to the room when you stop playing the game of who is right and start playing the game of how do we stay safe.
And let us know. Truly.
Man.
We read the messages, we see the comments. This community right here, Vibrations and Manifestations, this is a shared field too. When you practice this, you make this space stronger for the next person listening.
We are building this architecture together.
Next time, we're going the next level of difficulty. Because stewarding a mostly aligned group is one thing. But what happens when there is fundamental, deep disagreement?
Navigating disagreement without fragmentation. That is the graduate level work. Conflict is inevitable, but fragmentation, breaking apart, is optional.
Conflict is inevitable, fragmentation is optional.
Yeah.
I love that. We will explore that next time. But before we go, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. If your light is overlapping with someone else's, whose path are you unknowingly illuminating that you might never even see?
Walk steadily. We'll meet you in the field.